Hey folks, this is Carlin from Tables, and today we're going to show you how to track some simple tasks and set up reminders for when your tasks are coming up. For today, let's use our simple task tracker template. Let's click on this Use Template button, and it'll create a brand new workspace with a couple tables inside it. You'll see that the name of this workspace is called New Simple Task Tracker. Let's go ahead and rename this workspace to something more personal, like My To-Dos. Now here you'll see two tabs here, one that says Instructions, another one titled To-Do List. Each of these tabs is a table of data, and tables are really the fundamental containers where data, permissions, and most everything is anchored around in tables. The workspace is really just a way to group these tables together and show them in this nice tabbed format. And each table is flexible in the way you can configure it. This table that we're viewing is called Instructions, but we could easily right-click or double-click on the tab, and we can call it How to Get Started. There's a few rows and columns in here, but you could just as easily rename these columns too. Again, you can double-click on the column header or right-click and use the Edit Column menu, or you can add another column if you'd like. Now, we're looking over the instructions table for how to use this template. But if you're watching this video, let's skip that and jump right to the to-do list to see how we use this task tracker. You'll see we already have a bunch of dummy tasks filled in here to show you how this could work. And at any point in time, feel free to select these rows using click and drag or the keyboard shortcut Control or Command A to select these rows and delete them. You'll see here that every row in this table is a task, and we have a bunch of different ways to label or add data about each task in these different columns. The category column allows us to set what category a task should fall into, home or work or errands. This checkbox column here allows us to mark a task as done. This due date column allows us to set hard deadlines for tasks if we need them. This when column allows us to bucket tasks in terms of how soon we need to get it done. Finally, this last column here shows us when this task was last modified. The way this table is set up allows us to organize and visualize these tasks in flexible ways. Right now, you can see that tasks are grouped on the category column. You'll see that we have all the home tasks grouped together and then work tasks, so on and so forth, all based off this category column. If we want to add a new task, we can add a new row to the group by simply clicking on this Add New Row item here, or we could also use the right-click menu if you want to right-click and say Insert Row Above. And you can also use this plus button in the toolbar, which opens up the new row in a record type format instead. Let's go ahead and finish adding this task. Maybe we need to buy a new couch. Within these groups, we can reorder tasks by simply dragging and dropping. And we can also move them between categories. If, for whatever reason, file expenses should actually be part of home, we drag it over and it'll be automatically updated. You'll notice there's a filter set on the Done checkbox column. If we dig in, you'll see that we've set up a filter to show only rows where the Done column isn't checked. This allows us to check off a task whenever it's done, and then it'll automatically be hidden and archived away. Let's say we want to add a new category for fun things we want to try later. We can add a new category right from this drop-down. And you'll see the new options show up at the bottom here as a new group that you can add tasks to. You can also add, reorder, or rename these options by right-clicking on the column and opening up the column settings. For example, let's say we want to rename Fun to Miscellaneous. And we could also change the color here. Let's change it to green and reorder it in between work and errands. Once we hit done there, you'll see that it'll update the tracker so the category has been renamed, reordered, and updated the color as well. In general, the settings for what you can put into each column can be configured from these column settings panels. And you can do things like set a default value. For example, here in this when column, all new tasks will default to being in the BRB bucket. Now, seeing these tasks by category is nice, but maybe we want to visualize these tasks in a different way. We can really easily switch to grouping to group on almost anything we want. Perhaps we want to group on due date and see all the things that are due by week or month, or when we should get the task done, or even the goal of the task. This tracker template focuses on the idea of goal-based task tracking. And the idea is thinking about and writing down the goal of the task helps us focus on what's most important. Because sometimes we think of tasks to do, but later on realize it doesn't really contribute much towards that goal. Like this order new shelves task. Maybe we realize we don't really need new shelves to make our goal of working from home easier. And then that's a great way for us to say, nope, let's get rid of this. We can right click and delete this row. And that helps you keep your task list trim. That said, if you're not a fan of goal-based tracking, you can absolutely just remove this goal column as well. And you can do that by right-clicking and using this delete column option too. Now, we went over changing grouping in your view, but we can also change the overall layout of how the tasks are displayed here. If we use this layout menu, you'll see that we can use layouts to show our tasks like records in a ticketing queue, or in a Kanban board, or even in a map if we had a location column. Now these layouts are configurable and lets you pick which columns to show in the cards. So let's go ahead and show whether the task is due, as well as the category of the task in this order. And when we hit OK, you'll notice now all the tasks are shown as cards in these vertical boards that are grouped by category. You can easily move tasks from one board to another, and you can also reorder cards within a board. If we want, we can also group on another drop-down type column, like when we should finish the task. We can even filter on categories to focus only on work and errands in this task list. Let's say we really like this layout and configuration. We can go ahead and save this configuration as a new view. You'll see that there's already a bunch of preset views here that we made for you, and you can easily switch between any of them as you work. If there's one that you prefer to use the most, we can go ahead and make this the default by dragging this to the top or using this menu option. Lastly, one of the things that tables can easily do for you is automate reminders. Here on the right side of the toolbar, you'll see the bots button, and you'll see that there's already one active bot enabled in this table. If we click on this button, you'll see this bots panel open up, and we already have this one created for you that automatically promotes a task to the ASAP bucket if the due date is coming up in the next 24 hours. You'll see it's enabled this blue toggle over here, and let's click into it so you can see how this is set up. To walk us through this quickly, what this says is, every day at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, this bot will check to see if any task or row in this table has a due date that is coming up in the next day. And we could change this to be the next week or month. If there's any tasks that are coming up tomorrow, then it will update the current row and set the when column to ASAP. Let's go back to the bot list and talk about the second bot we've created for you. You'll notice this one isn't turned on yet, but if we click into it, what this bot is supposed to do is it'll send you an email summary of all the upcoming to-dos this week. And you'll see now that the trigger for this bot is every week on Mondays at 9 a.m. Eastern. This is a time-based trigger, but you could trigger on a bunch of other events, like when someone changes a column or when a new row is added. You'll notice that the action is also different this time. It says email summary, which allows us to customize and send an email summary of the rows that meet the conditions above, meaning due date in the next 7 days. Here you can pick from a bunch of different actions, such as sending separate emails, adding a row, updating or deleting a row, or using something special we call a webhook to do things like send a chat room or Slack channel notification. If we continue with the email summary, you'll see that we've allowed you to configure who to send the email to. And you can also customize the email subject and the email body. This lets you personalize your notifications and reminders. And that concludes our video for how to use tables to track simple tasks and to-dos. Thanks for listening.